The day everything changed. Ethan Reynolds had already walked through the fire of heartbreak once before. Years ago, he was a young husband, building a future with the woman he thought he'd grow old with. But that illusion shattered when his first wife, Melissa, met a soldier on leave at a restaurant and ran off without warning, leaving Ethan and their 3-year-old son, Caleb, behind like an afterthought. One day, she was preparing dinner and laughing at his jokes, and the next she was gone. No fight. No explanation. Just a note and silence. That betrayal cut Ethan so deeply. He vowed never to open his heart again. He poured all his energy into raising Caleb and running his modest business, a children's learning center he'd founded after leaving the corporate world. Love was a concept he shelved away like an old book that had nothing more to offer. But life, as it often does, had other plans. It began one chilly spring afternoon at a city park. Ethan had taken Caleb, now a thoughtful 12-year-old, out for ice cream after school. As they strolled past the benches, Ethan noticed a young woman sitting alone, shoulders hunched, tears streaking down her cheeks. She looked fragile and exhausted, not in the physical sense, but as though the world had worn her spirit thin. Ethan hesitated for a moment, then walked over and gently asked, "Are you okay?" That was how he met Claire Whitman. She was 23, fresh out of college, armed with a stack of degrees, certificates, and glowing recommendations. But no one wanted her. Every firm and company she applied to turned her down with the same cold line. "You're bright, but we need someone with more experience." No one cared how hard she'd worked through summer internships or how seriously she took her craft. She felt invisible. As Claire recounted her most recent failed interview, Ethan listened with unexpected tenderness. Meanwhile, Caleb had wandered into a nearby cafe and returned with a small sketch he'd drawn, a cartoonish but sweet picture of a girl with a sunshine smile. He handed it to Claire without saying a word. She laughed softly and clutched the drawing like it was a lifeline. In that moment, something shifted for both of them. Ethan knew she wasn't qualified for any open teaching roles at his learning center, but he needed someone to help with administrative work. He offered her a temporary position. Claire took it without hesitation. She was new in town, broke, and barely hanging on. She needed more than a job. She needed a lifeline, and Ethan offered it. Over the next few months, Ethan found himself drawn to Claire. She was smart, kind, and unshakably determined. He'd show up at work with fresh croissants or stop by her desk with coffee just the way she liked it. It wasn't just gratitude she showed in return. There was admiration, warmth, and something deeper brewing beneath it all. Eventually, Ethan asked her to dinner. She said yes immediately. Claire had already fallen for him that day in the park, when he'd chosen kindness over indifference. Their bond deepened quickly. Within 6 months, they were living together. A year later, Ethan proposed. Even he was surprised by how certain he felt. After everything, he was willing to try again. Claire had reignited a part of him he thought had died long ago. Years passed. Caleb was now a senior in high school, planning to attend university out of state. His relationship with Claire, now his stepmother, was genuinely loving. She had never tried to replace his mother, but she had become a nurturing presence he admired deeply. Meanwhile, the learning center thrived. Claire continued working alongside Ethan, and when they opened a second location, she took charge of it. Though she'd once dreamed of a career in communications, she found surprising fulfillment in helping children and running the center. She was firm yet kind, a natural leader. But working late hours became a habit, especially since the older students' classes, like creative writing and English, ran well into the evening. That's how she met Ryan Holt, a 26-year-old English instructor with charm to spare. At first, Claire admired Ryan's teaching style. He was charismatic, engaging, and clearly talented. But soon admiration morphed into attraction. She hated herself for it. She was married to a man who had saved her from rock bottom. But every time she crossed paths with Ryan, her thoughts became clouded with fantasies. Ryan wasn't oblivious. He sensed her attraction and leaned into it, offering compliments, brushing against her in passing, asking about her day with intense sincerity. Then one night, as they were locking up the center, Ryan kissed her. Claire didn't pull away. In fact, she kissed him back. What followed was a slow unraveling. The affair, though not frequent, ignited something wild in Claire. She told herself it was just chemistry, that it would pass. But with each kiss, her loyalty to Ethan cracked further. Home she grew impatient. Ethan, busy with his latest business expansion, was stressed and distracted. Compared to Ryan's youthful exuberance, Ethan now seemed old, boring, and perpetually exhausted. Ethan noticed the change. Claire, once gentle and affectionate, now seemed cold, irritable without cause. He couldn't understand it. He'd ask what was wrong, but she always brushed him off. Something inside him began to stir, a whisper of doubt he tried to ignore. Then one afternoon, while waiting for a business partner in his office, Ethan had an odd impulse. He logged into the security cameras for the center Claire managed. It was late. Classes should have been finishing up. But the main rooms were empty. Curious, he toggled through different feeds. And then he saw it. Claire and Ryan. In the back room. Intimate. Ethan felt like the ground disappeared beneath him. He pressed record, hands shaking. When it was done, he slumped forward, burying his face in his hands, choking on a fury so cold it made him numb. That night he said nothing. He greeted Claire as she walked in, even let her kiss his cheek. But all he could see was that footage, her betrayal looping endlessly in his mind. As he lay in bed, sleepless and staring at the ceiling, a plan took shape. First it felt too cruel. Then it felt right. He began planning a small celebration, an event to toast the success of his new venture. He booked a private banquet hall, told Claire it was a surprise party. Behind the scenes, he made special arrangements with the event staff to play a video at just the right moment. A specific video from a USB stick. The evening arrived. Claire, oblivious, dressed in a soft blue dress and chatted happily about Caleb's latest texts from college. She smiled. She laughed. She even held Ethan's hand. When the time came, Ethan stood up to deliver a speech. He raised his glass. To trust. To love. To truth. And that's when every screen in the room flickered on. There was the security footage. Claire froze. Her face drained of color. Then came the gasp. Then her tears. She turned and ran from the hall. The fallout was catastrophic. Their divorce became a battlefield. Claire tried to sabotage Ethan's business deals. Then she tried apologizing. Then begging. Then threatening. It was a storm of denial, regret, and desperation. But Ethan didn't waver. Caleb cut ties with Claire completely, disgusted by her betrayal. Ryan, seeing the mess he'd walked into, ghosted Claire entirely, blocked her number, vanished from the city, never returned to work. In the end, Claire wound up alone in a modest apartment, clutching at the memory of the man who had once saved her from despair. She often thought back to that park bench, the way Ethan looked at her when he asked if she was okay. She had found everything that day. Love, stability, a second chance. And with one selfish decision, she lost it all. There was no going back.